Welcome everyone to another AMA. We've got Alex here, the CEO. We have Kyle and myself, Spencer. Today, there was a big update. Alex is going to give us a bit of a rundown of the last couple of weeks, what's been going on, what we've got planned for the future, and then we're going to move into kind of some of your questions and then close off after that. Alex?
All right. So I'm assuming everyone in here has already played the new version. But we rolled out some tools for dealing with saboteurs. We've spent a lot of time improving the visuals of the game itself. And I think we've released a kind of a tweak on the mechanism of multis that is working really well. What do you reckon, Spencer?
Yeah, it seems to be pretty good. Good feedback we're getting from the community so far. Yeah, the game looks stunning. It looks awesome. I love the fireworks and everything. It's going pretty well.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get some questions on the fireworks. I personally think they look fucking awesome. I laugh every time I see players trigger them, and it's nice to see reinforcements and dogs not get absolutely spammed towards the end of a match. So that's been a big improvement.
All right. If you guys have questions you'd like to ask, feel free to request to come and speak up on stage. There's a little button down the bottom here on Discord, or you can chuck your questions into the live AMA chat, the text chat above this channel. All right, so one of the first questions I've been seeing a few of here in the chat has been about Delta Force loot boxes and when those will get rolled out. We do plan on doing that pretty soon. Alex, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, so we have an update coming which allows for essentially unlock codes. So our backend has always supported unlock codes, but the front end of the Mech store hasn't. So as soon as that update is released, everyone on Delta Force will get depending on the mech, they'll get their unlock codes and they'll get their mechs. So very soon.
Yeah, that'll be awesome for marketing as well. We can give out those codes to creators and live streamers, YouTubers, and things like that, and get them to post more content on the game and get the word out there. So I'm super excited for that. Kyle's super excited for that. Yeah.
I guess I'll just ask our Delta Force peeps to just hold tight, and early next week you'll get your mechs.
All right, we got another question on the Ukraine mech drops. When are those coming? I actually just spoke to John about this. We've got the collection all ready to go. We just need to update a few little visual things. I just saw the NFT today. It looks awesome. It looks so good. So yeah, that'll be coming out probably today or tomorrow, I believe.
I am fairly certain that there's already some Red Mountain Ukraine mechs running around, and the next two will be in. We just need to distribute them, so it's not going to take us too long. Obviously, we've been focused on this update, so that caused a little bit of a delay, and this update needed to be released for the Ukraine mechs to be supported properly in battle. So yeah, once we iron out a few of the small problems that we've experienced with the new update, then Ukraine mechs will be distributed. So I guess kind of like Delta Force, no later than early next week.
All right, another question here from Atakan. When are the new mechs coming, and will they be smaller than the old ones, and how expensive will they be?
So the new mechs will be coming roughly in 4 weeks. It's too early to set an exact date, but several of them have been, I think about 50% of them have been finished modeling and are actively being animated. I think one of them has been complete, like almost 100% completed. So they're very close, relatively. They will not be smaller than the original mechs. There'll be varying sizes. We have a surprise in that there's a range of mechs that will be very different from the existing ones. They're not going to nerf the original mechs, obviously, but they do come with a new mechanism, which is composability, which means you'll actually be able to swap out weapons and add abilities, mech level abilities, and do all kinds of stuff. And that functionality, that mechanism will also be available for the current Genesis mechs. So Genesis mech owners don't need to worry; they're not getting nerfed, and they will retain their 360-degree shield, which will never be repeated in Supremacy.
All right. Any other questions? If you guys have any you'd like to ask in person, you can hop up on stage. Happy to have you up here. Let's see, what do we got? What are your plans to encourage new players? Currently, they can't purchase mechs. Queue sizes are huge, and they just vote. They generally lose their subs and get disencouraged. So there's a few different things there. New players, encouraging new players and communicating with them. Queue sizes are something that is going to be worked on and changed up, I believe. If Alex, you want to talk about that?
It's kind of like an ongoing conversation internally here. How do you keep queue lengths down but keep people engaged, especially people who don't necessarily care about like how long their mechs take to enter. I know there's quite a few people who do that. They don't get the same results, but they like queuing their mechs and coming back and seeing how they went. One of the things we're going to bring in is essentially a fast lane for online users. So the queue, like a partial of the queue, will favor online people, and you'll skip offline people. So that'll improve things, at least from a queue length perspective. We also just brought out notifications, Telegram and SMS. So that has definitely improved at least the user experience around long queues, if not actually fixed long queues. It may actually have the impact where it makes the queues even longer, but what can you do? As far as new users go, that's definitely a concern, and is something we battle with, because obviously we hear from users who play all the time. They're the ones who tell us what they want and what they wish there was in the game, and often what they want is actually at odds with what gives a new user a good experience. So it will definitely be a focus of ours as we lead into the next NFT drop, and we'll be absolutely spending a lot of attention on how to capture those new players, and do it in a way that's not just giving away subs or anything like that. Unfortunately, that's the usual mechanism in this space. You kind of someone joins in, and then you either you pit them against bots so they get some easy wins, and then you hook them that way. PUBG Mobile is a great example of that, and even Axi to a certain extent. And then you give away stuff out of your treasury so that they feel like they're earning good amounts, and then you don't kind of show them the truth until they're well in. We're not going to do anything like that. So when we solve this problem, or at least attempt to solve this problem, we're going to do it in a pretty clear and ethical way, where what we'll do is make sure they have a great experience, they actually have fun. I think that's what's important.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act between keeping new players engaged and coming in, and balancing old players and keeping them happy. Yeah, so we've got another question from Rapture. Subs price is at an all-time low. What's your message for current investors?
So I can't speak on the SUPS price. SUPS is a utility token and not a financial product. And I have to be, from a legal perspective, very careful what I say in and around this subject. You know, I'll just say think long and follow the project. That's all I'll say on it.
All right. Has there been anything in the works to have multiple battles going on, adding new maps, leaks on weapons, land, mining?
Yeah, so this we are nailing down the next version, which essentially covers phase 2, which means land, resources, and production facilities. The way that the battle stream will work will slightly change. Not slightly, it'll change a lot. Essentially, there'll be, from the beginning, there'll be 2 main streams. One will be the war stream, and the war stream will be real battles in land areas that is owned by players, and will be a constant shifting of the actual which syndicate controls which land. And if you're a landowner from an NFT perspective, which syndicate you're a part of. So that'll be really fun. And those maps you'll see in that battle stream will be procedurally generated, and not 100% procedurally generated, but most of it will be procedurally generated. And then there'll be special areas that will be owned by a lucky handful of players to be like choke points through the world of Supremacy, and you'll constantly see battles in and around these areas. And then we'll have the traditional battle arena, which essentially is what we've got now, but the maps you see in the battle arena that are a bit more environmental, like the Desert City and the NeoTokyo, the city maps, all these environmental ones, they'll actually be removed from the battle arena. They'll be tweaked and adjusted for the actual real world war stream. And what will be left in the battle arena are like true arena style levels, which we've got a few coming in the next update. So you'll see what we're talking about. It's very cool. And battle arena will be then reserved for almost like it's like an entertainment channel in the world of Supremacy, where the AIs distract humans by having this 24/7 fun pretend war while the real war goes on. So it fits quite nicely into our lore. And the battle arena will be used for players to essentially do what they're doing now, just kind of have fun in that with the battle mechanisms and appealing to your syndicate members, etc., etc. But it will also provide a way for syndicate members to settle disputes, which will be an interesting mechanism. I can't speak too much on that just yet, but yeah, big things to come as far as battle streams go. And then as the war ramps up and the amount of players that are actively holding and participating in this never-ending war increases, the amount of battle streams focused on the fronts of the war will increase. And so we can essentially support a huge amount of battle streams, and so they'll grow with the game.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing about the vision for the whole world, just away from the battle arena, just outside of that, how it incorporates
Yeah, I mean,
everything together.
One of the things I can't wait to see is players who have their bases and their land in choke points. So they're constantly under attack, but there'll be incentives to hold that land. Like heavy resources, and there'll be real demand for it, which also means that other sides are going to come for it too. And when you're placed in this situation, you may not have the resources at the time a battle's about to happen, at the time you're about to be invaded. So you'll have to reach out to your fellow syndicate members and appeal for resources. So as a neighbor, you may send 5 of your mechs to go and help them defend against a horde of Zybots. It'll be really fun to see.
All right, we got another question here from Sarah Connor, Queen of Boston. Do we have a time frame for the in-game marketplace?
A version of the in-game marketplace will drop with the NFT release that's coming. So it'll all be wrapped up in the same update. We may be able to get something out before then to facilitate player-to-player mech transfers. No promises at this stage, but it definitely within 4 weeks.
Awesome. All right, and on that topic as well, will the new mechs have new types of weapons, and will those new weapons be swappable into the Genesis mechs?
Damn right. Yeah, absolutely. Each syndicate is getting, I believe, 7 new weapons each. It may be more. And yeah, all weapons will be swappable between all mechs, including Genesis mechs.
Meta Rick says, is there an affiliation between Supremacy and NeoTokyo? I've been wondering this for weeks now.
Nothing official. I am a NeoTokyo NFT holder, so I'm an S1 citizen, but there is no official affiliation. We think NeoTokyo is cool, and we hope they think we're cool. But yeah, no official affiliation.
Are there going to be rewards for people that engage in the fight from the beginning, not knowing the outcome and fighting for it, opposed to someone that's pumped subs right at the end when it's lower risk and they know the win is secured?
Yeah, this comes up a lot. That people dump in towards the end, and I have mixed feelings about it. The jumping in at the end to cash in on your syndicate's win, it feels a bit mercenary, but this is Supremacy, so that's kind of, I get it. We are definitely testing multis that encourage early participation, and in not a very long amount of time, we will have abilities themselves that will incentivize early use. And actually, this is an interesting one from a faction ability perspective, because one of the most frustrating things you'd see as a Boston user is dogs being dropped just as you're about to win, and it's because of people jumping in right at the end, right? And same with reinforcements, and same with overcharge from Zaibatsu. It's a frustrating thing to see as a strategic player. The fireworks ability, that mech level ability that we released last night, I'm hoping that will that will be where these last minute dumpers chuck all their subs and get their multis, and then at least they're not affecting the strategy of the game itself. But there's no kind of ability at the moment that gives you a bit more of an advantage at the start, and so that's something we're looking into. Like how can we incentivize early early ability firing? It's a fine balance, and we're terrified of making something too OP, or making something that's only available for players who can ape in, and that's something we want to avoid as well. So yeah, I guess I can't promise anything, because everything adjusts the balance and changes the outcomes of not just the battle, but the actual the fun of the game. So we have to be really careful we don't end up actually incentivizing bad behavior. It's tough, and we'll keep adjusting. I don't think we'll ever nail it perfectly, but we're always tweaking and thinking and adjusting.
All right, Jaxie Wicks says, can you explain how the spoils of war is calculated out with the multipliers? I think it means like how it's paid out.
Yeah, so spoils of war are captured. They're 100% of what people put in for abilities, etc., etc. They go into essentially a holding account for each battle. The new system joins all that into one kind of amorphous blob and distributes it continuously in a 5-second drip, or tick, I think is what people call it in the chat. Now, this tick, the amount that you receive is calculated by the multis. So if you think of a citizen as a 2x, that means you're basically 2 allotments out of the entire allotment of what goes out in the drip. So if you have 100x when it stacks up, then you'll get 100 allotments out of the entire allotment that goes out for the drip.
All right. Will we be purchasing / minting land with our subs in the future?
Yeah, 100%. That will come fairly soon. It won't come with the next release, but it won't be long after.
I like this question. This one's pretty long, so I'm not going to read it all out, but it's basically asking, are mech owners going to have special abilities that they can use in the battle arena?
Hell yeah, they are. One that's coming very soon will be Mech Commander, and this will give generals, if you look at the new ranking system, it'll give generals and mech owners, when your mech is in battle, the ability to actually send your mech to locations and target other mechs. So this is one I know everyone's been wanting, and it's coming. So yeah, look forward to that.
Is there a thought of having a test server to try out new items or rebalancing before it goes wrong in prod? We actually already have that.
Yeah, we have Delta. Go join Delta.
Yep. Yeah, there's a
although
chat down below.
I do have to explain to our community that even with our staging environment, which has way less load and traffic than prod, obviously, and even with our internal test environment where we use bots, it's really hard without actually becoming a bot company to train our bots to function like humans. It's not where we'd want to spend our resources. The people would, like, companies who want to do that actually want to fake their user counts. Our user counts are as real as we can get them. Obviously can't guarantee other people aren't building bots against our platform, but they're not our bots. Now we have the staging environment, which has it's like a 1% of what we get in prod, and people function differently when it's not for real. We can test mechanisms functionally to the nth degree, but you can't actually emulate perfectly how people behave in a real environment, and that makes things difficult. And certain UX failures people ignore in staging. It doesn't annoy them much, but when you attach an actual real figure to it, real subs, people change. The way they react to it changes. The way it impacts them emotionally changes, and it's very hard to predict. And we do our best, and we test it as much as we possibly can. But unfortunately, things will get into prod that will upset people, annoy people, or just not function the way we thought it would function. And it's almost impossible to 100% stop that from happening. So I think it's something as a user you don't really have to consider, and I get that it's our problem, not your problem. But yeah, just keep that in mind when when, you know, berating one of our support staff.
All right. Will mech owners / keycard holders get early access to weapon drops and NFT drops, so people don't just come and flip the NFTs?
Yeah, of course. We've said that right from the beginning. If you're a Genesis owner, a keycard owner, you get early access. They experienced our lore before anyone else, and they've earned it.
Insurance system. When is that going to be up and working? I also saw that the insurance button, I think, was removed from the deployment now. Is that right?
Yeah, so we removed it because it didn't do anything. We don't have destructible mechs in yet, and we don't have the repair system in yet. It will be in soon. We have to make sure that from a gameplay perspective and a lore perspective, it makes sense, and it provides some positive user experience without just, you know, seeming like a time sink. And in the spirit of transparency, you know, having mechs need to repair obviously makes sense from a gameplay perspective, and will, you know, at least keep mechs out of the queue for a bit and make queue times a bit more reasonable. So it's definitely something we're going to bring in soon. We just want to make sure that the experience is a pleasant one. And I personally am still not 100% happy with the mech draw within the game. It's definitely a lot better with this latest update. We've got mech battle history. I think the stats are a bit screwy at the moment, but at least you can actually see when your mech battled and how they did. So improvements are there, but until that experience is really nice, we're not going to bring the insurance system in, just because, you know, there's costs associated for players. So it's something it's something that needs to have a really good user experience.
For sure. Rapture asks about the companion app / systems for Supremacy. White paper points to something like an app. What's the process for that going to be?
Yeah, so that's a bit later in our timeline, and it's post the economic simulation coming out. It's very hard to predict when exactly that will happen, but companion app is already something we're planning. It's you know, with everything in this, you know, in Supremacy, it always comes down to time and resources. So, you know, if we put 2 people on it now, then there's another feature or functionality that will, you know, not get made. So it's a balancing act. But companion app is definitely coming. And then the other side of it, the, you know, actual play to earn using that companion app is something we'll be looking into. It's a bit difficult due to the rules of the Play Store and the App Store, but yeah, it's still on the roadmap, I guess, is all I can say.
That question from Rapture would also be orientated around people being able to build on the Supremacy system. So it would be when can players build on the Supremacy system as well, Alex? Yeah,
so production facilities is phase 2. We obviously don't have a timeline for that. It's not long after the next drop, and it's around the same time that land and resources and everything.
Yeah, we want to make sure that it's all right and it's all laid out a lot nicer and more streamlined than Genesis was. I think there was a bit too much going on there in terms of rarities, and if we add those in with the weapons, because there's different weapon types, it'll get a bit messy. So there's a lot of thought that has to go into that, I think.
There will be rarities, and I want to make a bit of a caveat here. Everything I say now is not not set in stone, and like I said, to be determined. There will obviously be rarities, and there's automatic rarities, and rarities can be affected by stats and performance history and modifications you actually make to the weapons and mechs. So there will be some some actual supply level rarities where this thing just there isn't many of them, and then there'll be rarities that you create. You actually spend the time getting it to that level of rarity. So that'll be an interesting mechanism.
So it won't just be based on visual then, on like the Genesis NFTs mostly are. The rarities are just visual. With the guns, it will probably be more stats. Is that what you're saying?
Yes and no. The answer is kind of all of the above. There'll obviously be certain textures for guns that are in low supply, and people will want, because they'll be really nice. So there definitely is always going to be rarities that are based around aesthetics, but there'll also be rarities that have either have an impact on the game, or have you've arrived at that rarity thanks to the game. So it's a bit more complex than just aesthetics, and the answer is definitely not that aesthetics are not important. It's everything.
Yeah, right. Washi asks, will we forever be a play to earn game now, or will there be a watch to earn aspect put back at some point for low money people?
Yeah, this it's tough to do it right now. Getting them hooked just from watching is definitely on our essentially to-do list, to figure out how to do that in a way that can't be abused by bots or by guilds, and at the same time provide good functionality and good features for the guilds and for the new players. I don't know if it'll ever be as easy as just watch to earn. I think that doesn't really provide anyone any value, and in fact costs us money. We pay quite a lot of money every month to maintain our streaming infrastructure and provide the game as is. So the players that come in and will earn in a more passive way like that, we have to figure out a way to make a system where they provide either us or the community value too. It can't just be one way. It can't just be like, here's a small stream of subs. There needs to be an incentive behind it for either the game or the community, and it's something we're trying to figure out. So if you have any ideas on how you think that could work, please feel free to put it on our
Feedback channel.
Yeah, feedback channel. I think we've also got a new thing where you can post and vote on features. So
something I just found out about yesterday was Axi Infinity just released a new kind of game that they give out a free Axi to people, and they can basically work their way up into the big leagues, something like that. So
yeah,
when we own,
that's interesting. One of the things I think we've had this discussion, at least Kyle and I definitely have had this discussion where perhaps it's not watch to earn on the battle arena. Perhaps it's actually delta, like the value that people can provide will be through actually helping us maintain and deploy a super stable system. So delta itself may pivot into essentially a way for newcomers and low income players to have an entry stream, like an entry channel into maybe mech ownership or some small subs earnings or something like that. So these are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. Like how can newcomers and that bracket of players provide us the value that we know they can. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know if Axi is just like, here's a free NFT is is sustainable long term, and that's something we're always focused
Yeah,
on.
no, Lucas just said, yeah, you can't actually earn with those free-to-play axes. It's more of a tutorial thing, I think.
Yeah, so that kind of merges in with our Delta stream. So yeah.
All right. When we own factories, will they just work, or will we need to hire staff to run the factories and do jobs inside them?
Somewhere between those two extremes. So they'll definitely work, you know, on their own, but you'll be able to increase productivity by bringing in essentially staff to like propel them forward and increase productivity.
So that'll probably be the same with land as well. Desert Phantom's asking, do you need people to occupy it to gain resources, or is it static?
Yeah, it's essentially very similar. You know, you would have buildings and like machinery that will, you know, extract and prepare the resources, and you'll have logistics for getting it to market and things like that, and other players will be able to provide services and you know, essentially metaverse labor to increase the efficiencies of these systems. That's yeah, definitely.
Current situation, members of your own syndicate are using abilities to kill you. Is there any way to stop it? Do you want to go over the punishment feature a little bit that we just added?
Yeah, so now you are able to actually propose a vote to punish. I never liked the word punish, but we couldn't come up with anything better. But you can essentially limit a player's privileges and access. So if they're griefing, you can block them from the chat. If they are, you know, wasting nukes or team killing, you can remove their location picking privileges. You know, there's that functionality, and you are only able to participate in this vote if you have, I believe at the moment it's 5 ability kills within the last 7 days, which I think any active player should be able to have. We're going to have to tweak it a bit. I don't think we've even seen one vote pass yet, which means we've obviously made the threshold too high. So that will be tweaked. That will be tweaked very soon, possibly today. But yes, the mechanism is now in place to take care of saboteurs.
All right. We've got a couple more people up on stage now. Just realized they were waiting in the queue, so welcome up. JHCB, you there?
Yes, good morning here in the Philippines. Follow-up question
Morning,
for Jack for that one. Is it possible for the mic owner who's in the bottom to have the privilege to launch the ability which he voted for? In that way, we can control the sabotage. How is it possible?
Yeah, there's right now there's a kind of a list of people that the system goes through to pick who actually gets to launch it, and the first person on that list is the last person to actually hit the required amount. And we're playing with the idea of maybe making it you know, first available to like the person who put the most subs in for that ability, or potentially mech owners in the battle. Yeah, it's something we're tweaking. We don't want to limit it too much, especially as we've made ability kills pretty important for ranks and even the ability to actually kick out saboteurs. So we don't want the abilities to only be triggerable by whales. This is, you know, something that we're really conscious of. So there's some things we're trying out, like you know, maybe every now and then randomly picking a player who's showing like positive behavior, so playing the game faithfully rather than like a Saboteur. But it is, yeah, like with everything in this game, it's a difficult balance. And if we limited it to just mech owners, for instance, and just the people who put in the most subs, then the players who can't afford to ape in like that, they would not be able to accrue ability kills, which, like I said, is going to become even more and more important in the future.
I see. So that would be all. Because our main concern right now is for the mech owners, especially for us who is always deploying our mechs. Unfortunately, most of the time we cannot get the ability to help us to win the match because some people are using it to kill their own syndicates just to get the higher multiplier. So I guess that's so unfair for those who is spending soups for deploying the mechs.
Yeah, and that's why we've brought the new punishment system in, and the community will be able to deal with these saboteurs and kick them out. And we've also brought in the ID number, so you'll see next to your username in the chat now. It's kind of like Discord, it's got a hash and a number there. That is a permanent thing. No one can change that, so you'll be able to track them even if they change their username. And this way you can track saboteurs, you can kick them out of essentially get them kicked out of the syndicate and take away their privileges that allow them to sabotage.
Okay, thank you. That will be all. Thank you. Thank you very much. More power to Supremacy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for the question.
More power to all.
All right. Sarah, you there?
Hello. It's working.
Hey, there you are.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Nice. Hello, everyone. So I wanted to go back to what you were talking about earlier with regards to. So at the moment, so we work very much on a team basis. We've got a lot of people that are working together, launching together, fighting together, playing together, and building and working on that kind of syndicate within a syndicate team focus, which has been really positive and really good, I think, for the game. And it seems to be happening across all of the syndicates. And there's a lot of cross-syndicate relationship building going on as well. So there's quite a lot of strategy around the whole team and community. But what we're finding is when we play as mech owners and as a team, quite often we actually don't benefit and get rewarded in subs as highly as people who are just in there to get multis. So you mentioned earlier something about generals. So I was interested to know how long that stays, that title of general stays for, what sort of extra incentive that gives you, and how the game's going to sort of weight towards people who are actually playing the game and owning mechs rather than people who are just chasing multis.
Yeah, so there'll be abilities released pretty soon that will be only available for people who reach higher ranks, like general, and abilities that will only be available to online mech owners. So we'll definitely be incentivizing that kind of getting in to to play the game to actually win rather than just trying to game the multi-system. One of the things that we're constantly trying to do is get these, get the people who are just trying to game the multi-system to actually do it in a way that actually helps their syndicate win. And it's one of the reasons why we brought the multiplication, the 500% multiplicator in to incentivize winning. Like winning should be important. Before we brought that in, there was actually no real difference to your multi payout based on whether you won or lost. It was more about how much you got in. So that's definitely at least changed behavior a little bit. You'll see these people who are doing that maybe getting in a little bit earlier, but it's definitely not changed things as much as I would like, and they generally wait until the win is almost certain. I don't think we'll ever really be able to curb that kind of behavior completely. So our plan is to incentivize the right behavior and reward the people who are playing the game, you know, in a strategic and fun way rather than a cynical way. I don't necessarily want to punish the people who are playing that way, because I think it is definitely, it's part of it. And finding a way to actually allow the syndicates to maneuver these people strategically is something we're constantly working on. That to me is a really interesting problem to solve, where, you know, you look at the online list, so we've got an actual online list now. You can see who's actually online in your syndicate, and there's so many people who are not in the chat, and I am really focused on figuring out a way to engage them with the syndicate community and bring them in. One of the things we're thinking is allowing generals to like deploy an ability that these members will have to like enter in, and they'll get a reward for doing it. So the generals can essentially manipulate their greed to achieve syndicate outcomes. That to me is essentially capitalism at play. So yeah, there's the reason the general system has been brought in now, there's not a lot to it from an actual functionality perspective yet, but we've brought it in now to make sure we get the ranking mechanism perfect, including how long it will last for and how you get it. So it's in now, and within a week or two, you'll start to see actual functionality that lets the generals, you know, not manipulate per se, but direct the power of the syndicate to the actual outcomes of the battle.
That sounds amazing. I really like that, because that's kind of how we work at the moment anyway, but without the power, without actually any way to control it other than sort of passing out commands. One of the things that we have noticed, especially as working as a team, is a lot of the strategy is often how we utilize the ability. So we all work as a team to try and win the ability. So then obviously that ability can be passed, held, wait for the right opportunity to utilize it to actually influence the game. But quite often what happens is people that help to win that ability, they maybe necessarily haven't spent enough suts to get a decent multiplier to win it. They have helped to win it. They get to hold it for a little while, and what they've done by holding it and not dropping it has actually helped influence the team from winning the game. But they actually don't get rewarded in any way for doing that. Whereas people that have just come in and spam the dogs get that reward. So some sort of reward for people who actually help to win a multi and maybe don't necessarily drop it, but do hold it. I don't know. I don't know how you would do it, but yeah.
Contributing citizen.
Yeah, that's interesting. I must admit, it's not something I've thought too much about. So we'll put our heads together and see what we can do. The whole holding strategy is really interesting, and there's a real divide in the community on whether it's good or not. You know, some people complain it's boring, and other people saying it's like it's a legitimate strategy, and I definitely fall on the more legitimate strategy part of it. And it was fun to actually see it emerge, because we never predicted people would even do that. You know, I've even seen Red Mountain hold on a nuke, you know, which seemed crazy to me, but I guess they were headed for a pretty obvious win, and allowing the ability system to open back up means they could get killed on the next one. So it made sense, but it was an really interesting like gameplay strategy that never predicted from the start. So the whole holding and passing abilities around, like, none of this was even conceived by us. We actually never thought it would work that way, and seeing it in action is really cool. But obviously we've not done a single thing to incentivize it other than the actual gameplay itself. So yeah, I don't have an answer, but we'll definitely add it to the list of things we need to keep in mind.
And just one more thing about the the new Saboteur stuff that you've put in. We're obviously all calling for it. So yeah, we're really pleased that you guys have taken that on board and done something with it. I can't help but feel like there's going to be an abuse, because any new powers that get given in the game seem to get abused quite quickly. We've recently seen one of our BC players have a bounty put on his head by Red Mountain, and people were paid subs for the amount of times they killed his mechs. We've internally managed to sort that out, but I could see there would be an abuse of power in there, perhaps, where they would have used this new power and maybe blocked that person for a little while. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm sure you guys have done a bit of role play with it and played with it a little bit and kind of know where it's going to go.
I'll tell you right away, we have no idea where it's going to go. We can guess, and you can see some kind of obvious abuse potential. That's why we've made it so that you're only able to vote and to propose punishments when you have a decent amount of ability kills and you're not a new recruit, so you can't come in as a freshly minted player and start trying to ban people. But like how it will, I have no doubt, and I've even responded to people in Discord and Telegram saying this even before we released it. I have no doubt it will be abused. In some ways, I even look forward to seeing how people will twist it and use it in ways we never imagined. And if they do anything egregious, we'll put out an update that stops that behavior. It's just the nature of it, and people will always find ways to exploit the system, and Supremacy is it's about that in a lot of ways. So this is why we didn't just fill the chat rooms with moderators and start banning people. It should be something that's maintained and handled by the syndicate members themselves. But we're definitely keeping in mind how these systems could be abused by really bad faith actions like bots and click farms and things like that. So when it's really obvious how you could do something, we try to put a pretty difficult mechanism to get around it. So right now it's the ability kills. You have to have a decent amount of ability kills and a appropriately high rank to even participate. I think like I said before, I think we've set the threshold a bit high, so we're going to have to at least adjust that in some way. So there will be an adjustment to the system come out soon. I guarantee people will try it and abuse it, and when we get the reports, we'll sift through them and we'll nerf any behavior that we think puts the game into disrepute.
Sounds like an appropriate way to deal with it. And to be perfectly honest, the way that you guys let us run the community so far and allow the game to sort of develop by itself and the rules to change, they change almost daily. And we kind of all have to keep up with it. It's simulating real war, so it's great. And one very last thing, and I promise I'll get off the stage, is I wanted to let you guys know that anyone who's in the Perth region, I know we've got a lot of Perth people here, the Perth crypto crew who meet in the city on Wednesday next week, they're a weekly meet. A few of us are going to be heading down there. We've got pretty sort of senior people from most of the factions, I think, heading up to do some live BA action. We'll do what we can to try and see if we can get a few of us queued up to line to battle live together in the arena, so I get my head around the new queuing system. So if anyone wants to come down and join in, I'll put some details up on the Supremacy Discord for anyone who wants to come and play.
Oh, very cool. Thank you. And I'm fairly certain there'll be people from this office there. No doubt. I may even make an appearance myself. I have 2 babies under 2, so I can't promise anything out of office hours. But
it would be great to see you. But if we don't, that's all good. We understand.
I've no doubt there'll be some ninja representation there for sure.
Can I get a T-shirt to wear for the night?
Yeah, we'll definitely bring some t-shirts. I'm pretty sure Kyle's going. He'll have a box of t-shirts for everyone.
Yeah, I'll be there with t-shirts.
See you there.
See you there.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, Krypton, you there?
Yes. Hello.
Hey, man.
Yeah. By the way, good evening. Here from LA. Congratulations, Supremacy team and community. I love the game, man. Yeah, I
Thanks,
even
Krypton.
bring my laptop. Yeah, I even bring my laptop. Last week I went to Vegas, and I don't want to miss the battle. You know, my wife said. Anyway, is there? My question is, are you working on something? Because I notice while I'm playing, there's some games that your syndicate. I know there's like 100 people online in my syndicate, but they are not participating. And then the next battle, they will throw a lot of soups. Um, what I'm seeing is probably is if you spend like 200 soups on the battle, um, they're more concerned to spend soup if their mechs are playing. But if their mechs are not playing, they don't bother to spend soup on the syndicate because they think that uh, if you spend 200, you might get 150 back. You know, this kind of mentality. Is there any way you guys doing to change that mentality that even though your mechs is not playing, you spend 300 soups and your syndicate win, you might get at least 300 to cover what you spend and at least gain more.
It's kind of like I said to Sarah. I don't think we'll ever be able to stop that behavior directly. So what we're working on is mechanisms to direct it to help the syndicate and the mech owners. So in future updates, you'll, as a mech owner and as a general of a syndicate, there will be tools and functionality to actually engage with these kind of players directly and focus their their energy in ways that directly improve the outcomes for the syndicates. So that's important for us, but I just don't think we'll ever be able to actually change the way they play necessarily, essentially, and not without nerfing the entire multiplier system. So it's yeah, it's an ongoing concern in the sense that I don't like how it, I don't like how they function almost separate from their syndicate, so, but I don't want to punish them for that. I want to bring them in, I want them to feel like they're part of something. And so that'll be a big focus for us, just going forward. Like it'll be something we will always work on. And, it's something I want to give tools to the community themselves to work on. So yeah, there's watch out for like the tools that will come in the future, and let's get him in. Let's get him into the chat at least. I think one of the things that will also improve their experience is we have brought in, it's not in the user interface yet, but we have brought in language detection systems. So in-game chat will be able to provide Tagalog streams and Spanish streams and all the other languages that people try and, like, I constantly see people try and communicate in a non-English language in chat, and some of the members gonna, like, yell at them English only, which is it's not a really nice experience when you're not English is not your first language. So that's something that we're looking to solve as well. So just like in Discord where we have channels for other languages, you'll see support for that in the in-game chat too. And I think that will really help things. So and it'll be, what will be interesting from that perspective is the players with more than one language will be able to bridge the communication between the different cultures, and that'll be an interesting thing. And I think you'll see an improvement in the way these kind of players strategize. But again, I still don't think we'll ever be able to stop that mentality of wading in just before your faction wins, and that's one of the reasons why we brought out the fireworks. You know, it's purely aesthetic, but you know, it's a way to spend your sups without making the actual weapons outpriced for strategy. So I think we'll see some improvement there. And yeah, like I said, it is definitely a focus for us to get them more involved with their syndicate community.
All right. Thank you so much for that answer, and more power, you guys. I'll be here. I just want to make sure to make it clear. I'm making soups, so on the battle, so I'm happy with it. I just noticed that, you know, the people's behavior, how they do it. I have 35,000 soups now. I started with 20,000. I bought everything with my soup, so basically I'm 35,000 soups right now. So
Very nice. That's cool to hear. Thanks, Krypton.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Well, just to expand on it, every time we change something and bring in a new, you know, in trying to incentivize different behavior, just like people waiting in on the win at the end, there'll always be people who figure out to exploit it. And like the real world analogy for me is, I can't remember what country it is, but there was a country either in Asia or South America who started paying people for killing this particularly obnoxious fly. And when they released this program, it worked really well for the first few weeks. You know, the actual amount of this pest out in, you know, out in the environment was dropped dramatically, and they thought, yeah, we've achieved a great outcome. And then the number of pests in the wild went back to where it was, and they're like, how has this happened? Because they're paying out even more money to people killing this pest, this fly. And turned out people had started farming it. They'd started breeding them. And so anytime you try to incentivize good behavior, there's always going to be someone who'll figure out how to do it in bad faith and exploit it. So it's something we will just always be adjusting and potentially like trying out new things and listening to feedback from the community themselves. And you know, anyone who has any ideas that they think will kind of, you know, bring syndicate community together in ways that don't end up being exploited like that, yeah, please feel free to send us feedback.
All right. Thanks, Alex. I just forgot. I have one follow-up question regarding the land sale and the following updates. Marketplace. With the land sale, it's gonna be on the page 1.5 or not yet?
What's that? Sorry. 1.5. No, probably not, but it won't be long after. And we will do a bit of a limited land sale before the actual functionality hits the game. So there'll be opportunity for that. We also have a mechanism coming into the gameplay that will be related to the land sale. I'm not going to speak too much on that, but cool things to come. Yeah, it is being worked on by our design team and the lore team. So definitely more information to come soon. Something we're pretty excited about, and it will change the nature of the game, which is going to be really fun. Yeah, thanks for the question, Krypton.
All right, thank you so much. More power, Supremacy.
All right, Desert Phantom.
Yeah, I wanted to throw a suggestion out there for the thing you were talking about, Alex, trying to get more varying people from different language barriers. Of something I've played a lot of MMOs over the years. Have you considered, similar to your emoji button in the battle chat, like you've noticed the community's probably got to a stage where, you know, nuke, airstrike, you know, they'll just have specific calls that lets know, like, everyone went to ape in on that particular ability. Have you thought about just having one in that, you know, someone like a general can click on, but it will display it in, say, the top 5 languages used or by the community? Like, I've got play a lot of MMOs where it'll be like, you know, enrage timer, and someone can click that button, one of the raid leaders, and it will put it into the chat in, you know, whatever language you've set your primary language to. Is that an idea you could work on?
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've got the language data now, so we're tracking what languages users are speaking in, and actually tagging the messages with the language. We've got a few plans around that, like providing that meta information to Chrome's automatic translation, which makes that move quicker. Yeah, it's definitely. I think as we explore functionality for generals, there'll be things we do, including around this culture and language space. So yeah, it's it provides us a lot of opportunity to bridge that gap between, you know, disparate communities.
No, cool. I just thought while the topic was there, I'd jump in and throw some feedback and thought process behind it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I hadn't thought of it in the same way that the MMOs do, with common words between languages. It's a great idea. Thank you.
We got a question here from Rackham. There are two types of players: mech owners and multi-chasers. I'd add a third, that there's vote, people that are voting for the strategic outcome of the game, but they're divided by the cooldown. Can we speed up the cooldowns so it keeps both of them happy? It seems like it takes a decent time for a cooldown to occur, as the new update has seen record high ability prices.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's difficult. I constantly go back to concerns about balance, and you know, some of the abilities that are OP. Obviously, nuke can change the outcome of a game rapidly, and so, you know, having it have a quicker cooldown could really result in negative gameplay experiences. So it's tough. The pricing on the abilities is essentially there to disincentivize factions, you know, taking over the winning the abilities. You know, there's if your faction is faster on the draw, then, you know, if the tick downs on the prices was more aggressive, then that faction would essentially be able to control the abilities, you know, for the entire time that they have those players online. And so that's something we, you know, we're always conscious of, is watching the balance of the syndicates winning the abilities themselves, because I know everyone has seen it when you're waiting for the nuke to become active, and you go to click, you know, maybe you're even spamming 10 subs, like you really want it for your syndicate, and you know, Zaibatsu or Boston suddenly all the way to the end, and you know, that happens, and that can only happen while the price is low for them. So that is a functionality that, you know, attempts to keep things fair and keep the abilities rotating, you know, roughly the same amongst the factions, and also provide factions this like strategic ability to cool down on the price of abilities. So there's, yeah, I'm not saying that it's going to stay the same way forever, and we're always thinking of ways to tweak it and make it a better experience. At this point, I don't think reducing cooldowns on these abilities is necessarily the way that we'll do that. But yeah, you can be safely. You can safely assume that we're always going to be working on it, tweaking on it, trying to improve it.
All right, Sage, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, man.
What's going on, duders?
Hey, Sage, how's it going?
Good. So, man, there's a lot I want to talk about. But first, I guess I'm just gonna kind of wrap up what a lot of you guys have been talking about, just kind of an amalgamation of it. Um, so what I'm getting is next, let's say 6, 7 months or year from now, game's gonna be completely different. We're gonna be playing it a different way. We're gonna have a lot of these elements that we're kind of dealing with now. But I'm assuming, like you were saying, Battle Arena is gonna be something, like you said in the lore, that is something that is kind of a distraction of what's really going on within syndicates. So I'm assuming during those syndicate battles, those, when you're actually kind of fighting for land, um, that's when you're going to actually give control back to the syndicates to have really more control of their abilities, to kind of not have so many randoms kind of come in and just like literally influence a battle when they don't have any stake in it. So I'm assuming a lot more of that randomness is going to end up getting just innately pushed into the battle arena itself, and that there are going to be gains in that arena versus the syndicates lands themselves. When you were saying that, if one syndicate gets too powerful, then it kind of puts a target on their head for other people. So I guess brainstorming possibilities, I'm assuming that maybe those syndicate battles maybe happen on a timer, after like this many times a week opens up it has an opening for a battle or something to kind of time around or something like that. I don't know.
There'll definitely be an element of that. There'll also be a staging functionality, like mechanism, where let's say you have the goal to attack a certain land on the front, you want to claim it for your syndicate.
Right.
You'll actually organize a kind of like a raid party with your neighbors and fellow syndicate members, and put together as big a fleet as you possibly can, and then you'll take some action to start, like, get that battle happening. Now, obviously, the other side will have some intelligence that this is going to happen, and a rough idea of how it's going to happen as well. So they'll be moving their defenses into place. So it's not that battles are necessarily telegraphed, but the movements of the front can be predicted based on what land is available to be invaded, kind of thing. So there'll be a constant back and forth on that defense and attack, and so you'll these battles, these actual the war itself will definitely be more geared towards the mech and landowners. They'll be the ones kind of like staging these things, and they'll invite in other players to help them, and maybe that'll be mech players who maintain a almost mercenary fleet, or people to actually help from a strategic sense on the like place you've got the abilities now in the battle arena. There'll be a kind of a simile of that. So you'll invite players in to help you. It'll be much more akin to an MMO raid, where you're actually working directly with the people who will end up helping you in the battle, and it'll be scheduled rather than like the battle arena, which is just a constant grind through.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Oh, yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at with all that too, the scheduling of it. And then what was I gonna say? So with that subs reward system that you have in the battle arena, is that gonna still apply in a certain amalgamation, I guess, in the actual those larger syndicate battles out of the arena?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the battle arena itself will not change too. I mean, actually, it's just going to change a lot over the next few months anyway. But in spirit, it won't change, and the way the subs flow through it will essentially stay the same. It's the battle arena is definitely more akin to the Brave New World. It is the distraction from the real power struggle happening behind the scenes, and you can kind of think of it as the people involved in the battle arena hey, if they've got land, it's probably really far away from the fronts. You know, they're not having to worry about being invaded or even concerned with helping their syndicate members who are attacking. You know, they're more engaged in the spectacle of it. So it'll attract like a different kind of player.
Right. And I know you mentioned, let me think, because I do like to think about, you know, I'm also one of the ones that's like, hey, you want new players in the game, like let's not forget about them. So I think, like, you know, when you involve all that and then add the enrichment center to all of that and how that can, you know, affect how production is happening with one syndicate or another, you know, gives other players a cool reward as to, like, okay, you don't have mechs yet, but it gives you kind of like the little drip faucet to kind of get closer to that. And so I guess kind of with that, I'm curious because you mentioned, you know, leveling up weapons and making them rare NFTs. Because I think I asked a while back, was just through the feedback, just like unknown information, right? Like with pilots, you don't know what you know. I personally would think it'd be cool if the other team doesn't know who, like, you know, your pilots are, because I think, you know, it's really easy to see a gun mounted on top of your back, but if you got all this high tech, you know, equipment, you should be able to put some tinted windows on the stupid thing, you know, like.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it won't be, yeah, it won't be the case of like, as for the battle arena, it won't be the case like you queue up and you see what other people have so that you can, you know, directly like strategize against it. But what you'll be able to do is go and have a look at their history, you know, so you'll get an idea of what they do. And so it is a bit more like you know, your classic rock paper scissors, where you're trying to guess, you know, are they going to go rock or are they going to go paper? You know, it's
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, and so you've got information to like adjust your strategy, but they've got similar information too, right? So they're potentially moving against you in the same way, and that'll end up with some interesting outcomes.
Right. And I think because I think it is better to, I think it's a good metagame to play when you're looking back on history rather than seeing what's always in front of you. And kind of, you know, with those, like, let's say I say pilots, but with the weapon NFTs, is there possibilities for newer players to actually find to, like, help level those up without actually maybe owning, you know, like, I guess it would make sense with weapons, but like I think pilots would be a good one to do that, kind of like leveling them up if you're a newer player, and then you can, I don't know, maybe level up weapons as well. And that's another way of like having, you know, if you level up your weapon or pilot or whatever to a higher rarity NFT, then that's a good way to kind of get your foot in the door for, you know, upgrading to owning mech NFTs later. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, definitely, and that's something we've like constantly been focused on. I was in a forum recently, and one of the guys on the panel mentioned an article that talked about, you know, sweeping the bathrooms in the metaverse, and how arbitrary and ridiculous that was. You know, like,
Yeah.
why are we doing manual labor in the metaverse? It should be like a
Yep.
pleasant experience. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like something I've always thought about is how do you provide, you know, how do you let people grind in a way that's fun? And you know, that's definitely something we're always like going to pay attention to, because I don't want people sweeping the floors in the Supremacy metaverse. It makes no sense.
Miserable.
Yeah, that's right.
So, well, I guess to kind of just wrap all of that up, especially looking at newer players, and even for us now, uh, writing primers on strategies and ways to actually make sense of what's going on with betting and, you know, whatnot. Because I feel like it's one thing to say, like, yes, if player A does this, player B does this, player, you know, or how do I want to state find my words. Uh just basically basic strategy primers, just to show you a way to, play through the game in this aspect or that aspect, and kind of have, a slight working knowledge rather than coming in cold and spamming out the nuke button and then being like, where did my subs go? This sucks,
Yeah, it's something we're very aware of, and actually Spencer is constantly pushing us to create this content, and it's yeah, so it's definitely a focus we have. And one of the tough things is that the platform's kind of moving so fast at the moment that but it's definitely like right in their top 5 concerns that we need to deal with over the next few weeks. So you'll definitely see more tutorials and infographics and these kind of things, especially as I think systems like the multipliers will start to settle down now that we're a bit happier with where that is, and we'll actually engage with players who are really deep in it to help us create this content. So yeah, it's definitely right up there, like I think it's like number 2 or 3 on the list of what we need to focus on short term.
Cool. Yeah, because I know, and I get it. Like, you guys are you are balancing something that does not have many layers to it, and like in and of itself, when you add the layers, they will inertly actually balance out a couple of those issues anyway. Like I keep saying, like when you actually have weapons and you have other NFTs that integrate into the mechs, then all of a sudden, like, we're not worrying about like it's a lot more complex than what we were saying was rock paper scissors. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's definitely why we're really pushing to get the next system out. There's essentially a team right now who are I mean, I'm looking at them right now, and they are figuring out how to fix imbalances between the syndicates mechs, and when you get composability, we don't have to worry as much about that. You're absolutely right, and it'll be really good when we get there. I mean, it's right now, for instance, anytime one of our game devs, let's say they fix a small bug, like just for hypothetical sake, it's something like the Zaibatsu sword doesn't swing properly when it's getting hit from behind or something like that. Something that wouldn't actually worry a huge mech. That little incidental nerf, like not on purpose nerf, makes the Zaibatsu mechs weaker over a longer timeline, and but maybe that actually balances them, right? So maybe that small thing actually makes the Zaibatsu mech fairer. But obviously the devs notices the bug and fixes the bug, and now suddenly we're imbalanced again. And no one really anticipated it. They were just fixing a bug. So we essentially have to dedicate like several resources to always be focusing on this issue and constantly making slight adjustments. And we never want to do something like obviously nerf a mech or an ability or anything like that. It's better to raise everything else up than it is to push something down. It's a constant ongoing struggle, and obviously one that really emotionally triggers the community, so we have to be very careful.
Well, in any kind of game, there's power creep, right? No matter what abilities you have, you're always going to make the game more and more interesting as time goes on. But as you add more elements to the game, there's always a combination that just becomes just broken. Like, and you will have to eventually like be like, well, this is just kind of backbreaking. Either we play something that, either we throw snakes in the tank to eat the rats, or we, euthanize the rats. I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's really close to that nursery rhyme. Like ate a spider, so then eat a bird to kill the spider, and like it's never ending. Like, you'll eventually consume the entire world.
Yep.
Yeah, it's definitely, and there's also the fact that when you get the players involved, then that adds a totally new dynamic. So we can sim in a really short amount of time. We can sim 10,000 battles with no humans involved and achieve a really perfect, 33%, 33.333 recurring balance. And then you add players triggering abilities, and the abilities are obviously slightly different too, and suddenly like the balance is thrown out again. And it's yeah, there's so many variables to achieve this balance. It's a lot of fun, but it's also just a never-ending Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a mountain.
Yep. No, agreed. And I think that as the game has evolved, you've had probably certain like I don't think anyone was organized in the beginning, and then like sheer power level probably balanced over time, where certain factions really started to gather up to push their win percentages over the edges, and then one syndicate, in my feeling, who was just kind of relying on sheer power, they kind of fell in shambles. But then new update, they're like, "Hey, we're good again." Kind of. I don't know. This is just me saying shit. So
no, that definitely happened. And another interesting thing that I've noticed is I'll even have staff members who like they play the game, and they'll come up to me and they'll be like, "Oh, it really feels like this syndicate is like they're getting the short end of the stick." So I'm like, okay, let's check the stats, right? So pull up the dashboard and we see their wins, and what do you know? They're actually winning more than the other syndicates. So
right.
It's not even just the actual balances and the actual stats and outcomes of the battles. It's also perception. If you come online, you come online at the wrong time, and your syndicate loses 10 in a row, you're like, oh man, it's bugged against us. But then you go to bed and your syndicate wins 5 in a row. Like there's the actual perception versus reality is
variance
really
is a
difficult
bitch.
thing to move around. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I was gonna say I don't know, squirrel. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it. So at least on my end.
Yeah. Thanks for the
Sage.
questions and the discussion. Thanks, Sage.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. BTC buddies, you there?
Hey everyone. Yeah, thanks for bringing me on stage one more time. Yeah, I want to just talk about the updates. Firstly, just a quick feedback on the updates, which I really loved it. I loved the fireworks and what else you guys added on to the visual prospect of the game, which looks pretty cool to me. So congrats on everything, and yes, and congrats on the new office as well. Yeah, I love the small tour. And yeah, looks like the team is growing day by day, and the game is evolving as well. A couple of questions I have. First about the punishment. Now, is that applied on the username, or does it apply on the wallet? Because what if we select a person with the username and he goes back onto the main portal and changes his name and comes back and still sabotage us? So can you please explain a bit how does it apply on the wallet, so that wallet cannot, it's banned for 24 hours? Or what about the situation is I haven't actually played the new update yet. Can you please explain a bit more in detail about the punishment aspect of it?
Yeah. So if you drop into the new game, you'll notice that next to the username is a number. So there's a hash and a number, and that number is permanent. So even if someone goes and changes their name, you'll still be able to track them against the number. So essentially, when someone does like sabotages the syndicate or like tries to grief the syndicate, the thing to pay attention to is that number. It'll be in the thousands, and so you write that down. They can change their username as many times as they want, but they can never change that number. So it's essentially linked to their wallet. Yeah, the only way they'd be able to get around that is create a new account, and we're going to make it harder and harder for brand new accounts to even even do any negative behavior. So we're aware of the username change issues, and also people trying to like create small variances on usernames so they can pretend to be other users. That won't happen anymore thanks to that permanent user number.
Absolutely. Look, on my Mech lost multiple times when someone, just wasted the nuke or sabotage and hitting our own Mechs, and that was kind of annoying. In fact, I stopped deploying my Mechs for a couple of days just because I didn't like the fact that the friendly fire is on at the same time. Anyone can come just be a last vote on the ability and just go and waste the ability. So that's understandable. Another question is more towards the ability. So when a syndicate loses all 3 Mechs and there's two other syndicates are playing with each other, is there a way we can actually remove the ability so they can't vote or they can't trigger another ability while they're not playing, just to increase their multipliers?
That's an interesting one, and we definitely have some altering opinions on this, even in the office. There is a strategy where syndicate members will still wade in on an ability either because they have a grudge against another syndicate, which I see as pretty interesting gameplay, or they just want to preload so that on the next round, the amount they'll have to pay, let's say for the next nuke, will be a lot smaller. So it's I don't think we'll ever block syndicates from wading into the abilities, but we may block the faction abilities from being used once everyone's dead. That's something we're tossing around, and I definitely can see that happening. The downside is that we have to consider the tick down of the price of the faction ability. So if we're blocking them from being able to use it, do we also block it from reducing in price? It's something we'll figure out. I have a pretty, like, without actually committing to it, I have a pretty strong feeling that we will block factions from being able to trigger their faction ability when they're out of the game. Because I think it's ridiculous when you see reinforcements arrive for Red Mountain and they're out of the game. It's kind of silly. And even if you have a grudge to bear against the other syndicates, it still doesn't really make much sense. We may do something where we maybe hold it for the next battle, but that could have negative consequences too. So it's something we're tossing around. It's definitely, you'll see changes there, and like I've said quite a few times through the AMA, we're definitely trying to bring more and more ways to change the behavior of those that wade in at the end, and obviously fireworks was one of them, but fireworks doesn't actually address what you're talking about, because you can't actually do fireworks once the mech is dead. Maybe we'll allow fireworks when the mech is dead. It'd be kind of ridiculous to kind of celebrating the mech's death, but I don't know. It's something where it's something we're discussing, and you'll definitely see some changes.
Another thing about the fireworks. I mean, I went onto Delta yesterday, and I played a bit of game over there. The fireworks is going towards upwards. Okay, so I've noticed that even if there's a mech which is next to each other from another syndicate, and when we actually trigger the fireworks ability, it's actually firing upwards. And the other mech is actually, there's not affecting, unlike the Zybus 2, they have this overcharge where it actually fires sideways. Have you guys looked into that? Because that actually damages the mech from another syndicate, but when you trigger a fireworks, it's actually going upwards. I mean, how is it actually affecting the mechs around them?
So right now, fireworks is essentially purely aesthetic, and it's a gameplay mechanism we introduced to have somewhere for those like people who ape in at like ridiculously at the end, non-strategically at the end, have somewhere for them to put their subs. So Syndicate's about to win, and you're a player who drops 150 right before the win. That's where you can put it, so you don't make dogs or reinforcements or OC expensive. We have had some suggestions where maybe fireworks aren't super damaging, but maybe they can like blind other mechs, almost like a flashbang type thing. it's something we're considering, and giving fireworks a bit more utility than just visual is definitely interesting, and yeah, you may see some updates around there that like answers that question, but right now it was just purely brought in to add a bit of flair to the game, which is fun, but also, yeah, provide an avenue for these ability spammers to put their subs somewhere that doesn't affect the actual battle strategy for the syndicates. Because I think that was something that a lot of people found very frustrating, is that, you know, you're trying to, let's say, like, cool down the price on reinforcements as Red Mountain, and you know, you've got, let's say, like, I've seen situations in the game where there's 3v1, and you know, 3 Red Mountain mechs are just about to kill a Zaibatsu mech, and there's no way that Red Mountain are going to lose. Like, even if the other side got a nuke, they wouldn't be able to hit them all. Like, it's pretty much done. And, like, you know, 2 reinforcements are called within like 30 seconds of each other. It's crazy, and it's that kind of play, like gameplay, that upset a lot of people who are putting a lot of effort into, like, organizing their syndicate members strategically. So, you know, without directly punishing these kind of players, which is something we want to avoid, you know, we've provided this other avenue, the fireworks, and they're fun. You know, I every time I see someone fire them off, I laugh. I love it. But it's somewhere where they can, you know, they can play their strategy of getting multipliers without, you know, directly hurting the ability for the syndicate to win the next round.
Another question is more towards the Boston cybernetics. I've noticed when we call our dogs to attack the other mechs on the other syndicates, what happens is when our mechs dies, they're still attacking. So there's this. So in fact, is there a way where we can tell dogs which mech to go and attack? I know it's more AI based, and they whatever they see close to it. Like, unlike the reinforcement, so when you see the reinforcement comes in, they come straight to the mech and try to support the mech of Red Mountain. Whereas even if we are dead, they're still going and attacking people. So why can't we just remove them as your mech is literally out of the game? So, you know, if Red Mountain is basically all 3 mechs are dead, the reinforcement is still alive, why can't we get them out of the game as well? So there's a actual battle going on between 2 syndicates rather than another dogs or reinforcement is trying to pick a team and try to attack them. I don't know if I explained my question correctly. I know what you mean. I hope you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think you're proposing that if the 3 primary mechs die, then like dogs or reinforcements, you know, essentially die with them. I don't have an answer on this one, and it is, you know, there's some interesting outcomes where that reinforcement or like, you know, a few dogs that are remaining actually do alter the outcome, and we don't necessarily want that to change. I do think we do want to stop people ordering them once their syndicate's out, once their mechs are out. That's definitely something we think, you know, doesn't really bring much like good gameplay or good user experience. It's something we definitely change. As for killing them if the other primary mechs die, I'm not sure. I think we'll maybe we'll run through a few simulations on our test environments and see what that's like. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, again, this is where you're coming from. You might want to change a lot of coding at the back end, and obviously test it out to see how it actually works. But I'm more referring towards when there's actual competition game going on between 1 versus 1, and if our dogs are still in play, they will just pick one of the syndicate, and although that has more health, HP remaining, they still might be on a losing side compared to if there's a 1 versus 1 happening, they might actually end up winning it. So I'm not talking towards us, but, you know, same applies to reinforcement and for Red Mountain as well. Now, another question I'll add on to top of it is that, you know, our dogs are actually landing way far away from the actual gameplay, whereas the reinforcement lands straight next to the mech where they're trying to support.
Yes,
can't we just land them next to the person? Because if there's 1 versus 1, and if we're calling our dogs, we don't want, by the time the dogs actually arrive to the actual location, your mech is already dead. So there's no point calling dogs at the same time. Although if the reinforcement comes in, it comes right next to it to support their mech.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's going to change. Either the so we're playing with 2 strategies at the moment. Either the dogs will work similar to reinforcements, or we'll change both and allow syndicate generals to actually pick a location. So yeah, that's definitely something that's going to change. And I agree, the distance of the dogs nerfs them quite a lot as well. You know, I've definitely seen times where Boston could have really used the support from the dogs, but by the time they actually got into the battle, it was over. You know, and that's kind of sad, especially as reinforcements, as you say, drop right behind the Red Mountain mech, and it is something we
walks with them. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so
they actually walk with them.
Yeah, and you know, that actually makes sense from a dog's perspective, right? Like they follow their master. So it is something that will change pretty soon. And I think one of the reasons why it hasn't been changed sooner rather than later is that we have to really make sure the dogs don't like land on buildings and things like that. So you know, it's rather than the Red Mountain mech, which is, you know, just one mech, a lot easier to kind of aim and drop. The dogs are a little bit more difficult. So I know someone's been working on it, and yeah, you definitely see a change there. I totally agree that the dogs having a static position in each map to arrive at doesn't really make sense. So yeah, that's definitely coming.
Okay, and I think it will make a huge difference once you remove, or if I don't know how that's going to work, but once you remove the ability to call dogs when you're out of the game, or you kill them when your primary mechs are gone out of the game, it doesn't actually affect the actual gameplay. So if there's 1 versus 1 for the other 2 syndicates, or it's left, you know, there's actual competition going on, rather than dogs are coming and affecting a gameplay where the Boston Cybernetics 3 primary mechs are already out of the game. I don't know why they're coming in and how they pick a team to attack them. Or if we get a chance to pick a team, if we have any grudges against the team, then if you allow us to pick a location of the dogs landing, like it happens on a nuke or airstrike, then in that way we can pick a team and say, you know what, I want this team to lose. Let's call our dogs and make sure that the other team loses.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're playing with. And right now I'm not sure which way we'll decide to go, but it definitely, yeah, the current problem will be resolved, and we'll essentially pick the one that is the most balanced and provides the most fun. So my gut leans probably more towards like not allowing faction abilities once the primary mechs are dead. I think that makes a lot of sense, and you know, and also stops automatic triggers. So you know, when the price of the faction ability actually ticks down, it'll eventually hit what's in the pool already and automatically fires. So you know, stopping that in some way, either by making it a you pick the location, so it has to be actually like fired by someone, or just pausing it until the next battle completely. That one of these mechanisms will be brought in pretty soon, within I'd say within a week or so.
Oh, nice. That's great, because I think there's a couple of times where we called the dog and the dog landed on the other side of the planet. By the time they got to the location, both of my mechs were down. Because we were against 4, 3 of the primary Red Mountain mechs and their reinforcement, and my dogs didn't come to the play.
Yeah, it is really frustrating. That will be fixed well sooner. like I said, someone's literally working on it right now. So you'll see that by next week.
Okay, now my final question before I'll let you guys talk to the other community members is more towards, I know I had a chat with Carl the other day, more towards the marketing side of it and how to bring, now that the game is a lot stable, we can obviously cater larger community members or larger player simultaneously. What are we doing in regards to centralized exchanges and the marketing side? I don't want to talk about the price, which obviously you have some restriction to talk about the actual price of the stuff, but what are we doing in regards to the marketing piece and also to list our coin towards some centralized exchanges?
So we also have some regulatory restrictions around how we can or how we can't promote and discuss centralized exchanges, but it is part of our internal strategy to make sure that there are, you know, well-trafficked, high volume places to purchase subs to engage in the game. And we are, you know, we're in discussions with some you know, pretty decent exchanges. It's just a time thing, or it's a huge expense thing as well. You know, it's, to essentially get on the tier ones, that we have to put a lot of capital up front as well. So there's a lot of kind of negotiations back and forth there. It is something we're paying attention to, and there is, you know, there's people working on it essentially full time. So it is just a matter of time before there are more places to, you know, to acquire subs with better liquidity and better volumes. And it's a concern that you know, we are definitely focused on. And my co-founder John, that this is like totally his domain, and he's been essentially 24 hours, not 24 hours, but essentially like 100% of his time has been focused on this problem, and also the problem with liquidity in the marketplace anyway. So there's some big things we'll be announcing there. I don't want to take any steam away from Kyle and John. So yeah, that's their domain, and they'll be handling it. And I'll actually, I think I'll pass over to Kyle now. It probably has a bit more of a detailed answer for you.
Kyle, before we start talking, we don't need to know. I think I've been told that you are working on some sort of marketing plan at the moment. So we would like to know a bit more insight about the marketing strategy in the future as well, because I know 14th of April, a lot of coins will be unvested again from a private investors. So I think that might pull the price very down. So yeah,
it is something where we're preparing for. We've got some strategies around. There's it is actually interesting how few of those initial private holders are exiting the platform, and it's actually very interesting how many have like waded into the gameplay and the actual like NFT holdings as well. So it's that it's I don't think it's as straightforward as on that day there'll be a huge dump. I think there'll be it'll be a bit more nuanced than that. But obviously, like we're including it in our marketing strategies and also in our like NFT drop strategies and things like that. So we will definitely have some mechanisms to like rebalance the flow back into the world rather than, you know, out of the world. So yeah, I'll let Kyle either add on to that or not. But yeah, it is something we're obviously thinking about.
Yeah, so centralized exchanges wise, we're progressing good engagements with them, and you know, that's just a long process to set those things up. And you know, regulatory wise, we aren't able to discuss any contracts that may or may not be there. And the news and announcements around that will be, you know, it is happening when it happens. That's just a regulatory point of view that, you know, we can't talk about too much.
We're definitely in no way can we be seen to be promoting secondary markets, and that's a very strict regulatory perspective, not just in Australia, but in the United States and in quite a lot of other countries. So, you know, as a utility token, we have to really play by the rules of that, and secondary markets is a big part of it. And you know, if we're seen to be acting like a financial product rather than a game, then you know, that'll raise concerns to regulators, as it should. So it's we have to play it safe, because you know, this is a long-term project, and I don't, you know, we don't know, we don't want to end up being exiled to Malta. So it's something we like we have a pretty well resourced legal team keeping us always on the correct side of international law, and this is a big part of that. But that doesn't actually stop the token itself from being listed on central exchanges, and doesn't stop the community. It's our community actually discussing it and working with these exchanges. So it's not too big a problem, but we can't base our marketing around centralized exchanges, unfortunately. That would be a really cool way to get the word out there, but we have to be careful.
Yeah, as a well-rounded marketing update. So we've got a number of exciting releases coming up with the increase in phase 2. As a new project in the crypto space, big part of our marketing plan has been setting up the foundational infrastructure for our networks to stand strong as a brand over this long-term period that we're building. This has been progressing really well. We've been growing our network and talking regularly with newer networks, projects, partners, influencers, advisors. Anyone in the community that has advantageous networks or connections that they want to see us connect with, you're absolutely welcome to reach out to myself, and let's see where that goes. With this update under our belts now, we're arriving at a much cleaner and well-rounded gameplay, and we're definitely going to be increasing our user acquisition campaigns through advertising, networks, collaboration, partnerships. In the build up for this next NFT drop, particularly, where we're going to be pushing Discord growth and advertising in areas that we can advertise. Advertisements in itself in the crypto space is a tricky ball game with, a lot of major platforms halting crypto ads. So we've got to find alternate means for that. Display, banner advertisements, page sponsorships are really key to that advertising strategy. Another key element of our marketing strategy is community-driven growth. As a project, it's our responsibility to facilitate that as best as we can. The strength of our community is one of the greatest sort of marketing assets we have available, and it's something we're definitely looking to facilitate more and establish a stronger culture of that. We've got a lot of really excited, passionate people ready to engage with that and assist. And if you're absolutely welcome to reach out to myself or Spencer if you're keen to help be a part of that. Now that this launch is off and away, we've been establishing our internal team. That's looked like segmenting the marketing department from customer support, moderation, and Delta Force management as well. So we've been clearly defining that structure.
I can see Matty Greenspan is on the community channel right now, and I believe he might be able to add his influence and try to probably list you on some centralized exchanges, or maybe bring some influencers to a supremacy world.
Yeah, so that's definitely why we've got our advisors there. They've been great. We either have weekly or monthly meetings with them, depending on our partnership with them. And then, they've all got their unique different strengths. So on the note of the structuring within the marketing team, that's been progressing really well. One of the key parts of that is we've hired a new head of support. His name's Vernon. So he's spearheading, the customer support team. The Delta Force structure has also been upgraded with one of our developers, Ivan, now taking the lead on Delta Force. This gives the marketing team a really good direct focus on now building our foundation, continuing to build our foundation networks, and we can really start pushing phase 2 progression now. The drive for that's really strong. We can definitely expect to see supremacy at global events this year and next. The strength of our networks is growing. Influencers and partnership discussions are progressing well. Our content creation team has been expanding, and content networks have been growing. And anyone that wants to be part of that, hit us up. The sort of strategy from here is, in part, a consistent and steady growth alongside key campaign pushes for different events. So that's what we can look forward to.
Yeah, I know we're a bit away from Dubai and Miami, for that matter. Did you guys or have you guys planned to visit those locations which is kind of like a hub of crypto in Miami and Dubai? And I've seen there's a couple of events currently being held in Dubai at the moment. And did you guys plan to go there and just advertise advertise supremacy in that context?
We've been collating all of the global events, and we'll be analyzing what are the best sort of events for us to go to. Getting us Alex speaking at those sort of events is really a key focus for us. So very excited for that this year.
Yeah, we're very, very, very much looking forward to traveling. So you'll see us at all the big conventions.
Yeah, appreciate the bringing that up, BC Markets, and I hope that marketing is well-rounded for you. And yeah, shall we get Sage up on stage, mate? Thank you for your patience. Hey,
thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, BTC buddies. Hey, Sage.
Hey, well, thanks for inviting me back on. So, just two small things. I know you already touched on dogs and anything like that, so I'm not going to get too much into it. I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in is if you're doing it this way or not, whatever, but you could already just put predetermined spawn points on the map and just make an RNG determination of dog spawn here or there or wherever, or maybe they're a combination of those points, 2 here, 1 there, 3 there, whatever. Anyway, leave it at that. And other thing is, though, because the big problem again is well, what do we do? Do we shut off the ability at the end when your team dies? I'm going to propose possibly doing a death ability. So instead, the first faction or syndicate that's out, their team ability is replaced with a generic place to just dump sups that may just do something really insignificant or possibly a little influencing, cut out the map for 2 seconds or whatever, but something that doesn't affect game outright, but something small, still affecting, and then you get somewhere to dump stuff into without actually cutting anybody off from playing their subs.
Yeah, that's definitely something we're considering. Like I said, one of the interesting suggestions I've seen in Discord was an ability to turn a dead mech essentially into a giant landmine. I thought that was fun. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but yeah, there's a ton of ideas, and we'll definitely bring more mechanisms around that in pretty within the next few weeks.
All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna stop talking.
Thanks, Sage. Well, I think we've been doing this for 2 hours now, so I think we'll call it. Is there any pressing questions from the live AMA chat channel, Spencer and Kyle, that you reckon we should answer before we sign off?
Yeah, we got a few here. I think so this one, we have the subs earned tracker now, which isn't really comprehensive because it doesn't track subs spent. And we have a net gross tracker or subs spent tracker.
I guess it's something we'll play with. Right now, like that subs earned essentially just calculates how much comes in, no matter how it comes in, on the time that your browser is active. So if you refresh, it goes back to 0. So it's not providing comprehensive data in and of itself either. So yeah, it's something we'll play with. I don't necessarily like I really like hearing about players that run spreadsheets and are very strategic about how they move their subs in and out of the game. And but I don't necessarily want to provide that functionality within the game UI and make it a real like game for accountants. That doesn't appeal to me. So yeah, I'm not sure. I guess the answer is we'll try it with maybe try it in Delta or something like that, and we'll see how it affects the gameplay itself. Yeah, no commitments. We're constantly trying new things like that, and if it results in more fun gameplay, then you'll see it.
All right, we've got one more person in the queue. I think we'll let him ask his question and then we'll sign it off, close it out for the day.
Great, thanks, Spencer.
Shocker Manners, you there? He's, of course, the last person who's not going to have his mic working. Shocker Manners, you there? Oh, there you go.
Oh, you can hear me. All right.
Hey, man.
Quick, so with the subs and when you're spending, I was curious if there's a way like, so when everybody's just slamming on the buttons trying to get their subs in and get them, how do you know if once it's cut off, your subs stop spending? Is there like a way that you can put how much you spent real quick, and then if it was already spent, bought, do those come back to you?
Sorry, Spencer, did you catch that question?
So, do the subs you spend come back to you? Is that what you're asking? I caught the last bit, but
like, so when your whole team is just aping in and trying to get the win, and everybody's voting for a nuke, and you're just smashing your clicker trying to get it in, and then once it's already set and complete and bought for whatever team, the subs that are still being taken out of your bank, do those come back that aren't actually spent on it because it was already bought? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So how that works is so the pool for your syndicate to win that specific ability is individual, and it works. It actually works very similar to the faction abilities, where your syndicate fills up that pool, and when the trigger hits it, because the price, when people aren't putting in and winning abilities, the price trends downwards. When that price point hits the amount in the pool, you win the ability. Now, obviously the battle abilities move very quickly, and we very rarely actually see it hit it like on that downward trend. But what happens is, let's say your syndicate manages to get 50% of the way. That means on the next round, when that ability comes back, you're still at 50%. So you have an advantage over the other factions. So that those subs you put in are not wasted. They're held there to essentially make the next time that specific ability is offered easier to get, and that's why you'll see. That's why it is sometimes strategic to, even if your faction is out, to at least put in a few subs into that and get it closer. So, on the next round, maybe you'll only have 100 subs left to attain the nuke, whereas everyone else is coming from 0. So they're not returned to you, but they're also not wasted. They're not just like, they don't just vanish.
Answer your question?
Subs, and then everybody puts in 100 subs, like, does that just disappear, kind of a thing? But all right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely doesn't just disappear, and helps you strategically to win it the next time round.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
No worries, thank you. All right.
Thanks, man.
I think yeah, we'll wrap it up, and we'll most likely do another one of these in 2 weeks, probably timed with another update. So look forward to that. And yeah, thanks everyone for being such a cool community. it's always a blast talking to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for attending. This AMA will be uploaded on YouTube shortly, probably later today sometime, and you can watch it there. Kyle, you there? Want to say bye?
Yep. Thanks everyone for tuning in. See you on the battle arena.
See you guys.
All right. See you on the battle. See you guys.